Awesome. Welcome back to another episode of the Humor Hustle. Today I'm joined by my co-host Garrett, and as well as a special guest, we've got David Przybyla on the show. So David, give us a little bit about you.
So I go by Priz. That's the nickname. So that's what we're going to do the rest of the show. Let's start with this. Let's go with 2 truths and a lie, and we'll come back to this. How about that? All right.
Okay.
2 truths and a lie about me. Ready?
Okay.
Okay. First one, I have bowled a perfect 300. Okay.
Okay.
I have been to all 7 continents. Or I am the Guinness Book World Record of the largest board game collection in the world.
I'm going to leave this up to you because I actually know the answer. Because
you-
I paid attention in
All
class.
right, nice. But you don't. We can come back to it later.
Sidebar,
All right.
he was
Okay.
my professor and I paid attention in class. But
Okay.
I'll leave that up to you.
All right.
So
one of
2
those
truths and a lie. I'm going to say, dude, bullshit on a 300. That's
Okay.
crazy.
All right, nice.
Like, I don't even know if I know a bowler that's done that, other than
Okay.
maybe Jason Belmonte. But,
Yeah, nice 200 bowler.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably my guess.
All right. Do we have to give it now? Or do you want to give it later?
Let's give it later. We'll give
Okay.
a little.
Let's
All
get
right,
it
come
later.
back.
Yeah.
So-
You got to stick around to find out.
Yeah, stick around and find out. So, awesome. Yeah, tell us a little bit about your journey. Obviously, you teach over at UVU here in the Utah Valley now. Before you got into UVU, though, you did something a little bit different. It sounded like you started a tech company. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I did not come up through the traditional educational route, and that's why I like UVU quite a bit. So I grew up in California, transplanted to Utah through high school, and got my undergraduate and graduate degree then at Colorado State. Just awesome, cool little town, Fort Collins. It's like Provo, but cool.
Yeah.
Fort Collins. Okay? Actually, here's the interesting thing about Fort Collins is the only city in Colorado that you're legally allowed to have your own brewery.
Really?
And so they actually have more breweries than homes in that zip code.
Wow.
That's
And
insane.
so when you go eat at a restaurant, it's like 8 pages of different brewers, and then like chicken wings at the end.
A lot different than
Yeah.
Provo.
Yes,
Yeah.
very different. So it's kind of a cool place. So, but as part of that career path, I spent some time in tech transfer at universities, which is where you commercialize technology. So you bring professor inventions to the market. And that's how I got my start as an entrepreneur, bootstrapped a couple of those businesses. And then I went through my typical career path of anybody, right? Starting job, hated it. My second job was awesome. I actually got to go live in Thailand and run an office for a year.
Oh, wow.
So that was pretty amazing, international experience. Amazing opportunity there. Got into tech, all while bootstrapping my business along. Built a real estate empire, and then got into marketing for construction of all places, which I did not expect to be, but a pretty awesome company there. And then the Valley, right? So Utah Valley decided they wanted to start a digital marketing program. They were the 12th accredited in the nation to do a digital marketing program.
Wow.
Which is pretty awesome. And so, but nobody knew how to teach it because nobody learned it in education. So my name kept popping up. They actually came after me, recruited me. It was good timing. It was just about when I was going to sell my business. Good place to be. So ever since 2016, I've been over at Utah Valley building this digital marketing program, which we now have over 400 students graduating all the time from. So
Oh, awesome. And you were one of those students.
Yeah.
I was one.
He was
Yeah.
one.
I am one.
That's awesome. No,
So-
and before you came in here, we were talking a little bit about it, but it sounds like, just throwing some controversy into the mix, a lot of teachers that are getting into universities and colleges, you're saying don't have the experience or aren't necessarily like involved in certain aspects of the industry, but yet they're still getting.
it's extremely. If I was a student, I'd feel like I was getting gypped, especially in the business school,
Wow.
right? Because a lot. And I mean, I'm ragging on my own professors here, so here it goes, right? So, right, but it's just a truism that it is what it is, and that is a lot of professors, they come up through education, right? So they get 20 years of schooling or whatever it is. They get maybe one consulting gig, and they think that they're God's gift to mankind because they had 6 months of some consulting gig. No offense, guys, but it's true. And so they use that one story for the rest of their life, and they really don't have the hard knocks experience of being out there in business doing it. And so when I showed up, my boss, who was one of those, no name to be mentioned,
You know who you
just
are.
he came to me, he put me in my place, and he's like, hey, you business people, you think you know how to do everything, but you get it all wrong. I'm like,
Really?
well, who the hell are you to tell me that I just sold a multi-million-dollar business that I got it wrong?
Yeah.
But okay, right? I see the ego, and so, but that's what's cool about UVU is it's a mix. It's a mix of those who are the year-long or lifelong academic, but then they bring in business practitioners to be more real to the students. And so the students at UVU get a mix. They get a mix of the theory of what should be the best practices, but then of a mix of those of us who have been out there in the trenches doing it. And not every university does that, right? We call ourselves a teaching first university instead of a research first, right? Your bigger schools here nearby are more research.
Right.
So I think it gives a much more realistic, hands-on application education to students.
Yeah, and I like the aspect of getting a real world experience out of having a professor, because there's kind of like a little saying that people say about professors is like, a lot of people teach because they failed at trying to go what they're teaching about. And then they're teaching these students about something that they failed to even get into.
So is it possible that we're honestly just putting teachers in that honestly have failed at business, or they just kind of are wannabes?
No, there are some of those. There are some of those that just, if you can't do, teach, right? That's
Damn.
There's a reason that actually is a saying, right?
Damn.
Okay. So actually, I was talking to a buddy just yesterday. He works for Visa. The same thing happened. The sales guy came in, revamped the whole sales program. He got 0 commissions now for 2 years in a row, and he's the top performing sales agent. And the guy's now left. He's gone to be a professor. He now gets to talk about how he was at Visa and he fucked everything up, but that's not what he's going to say.
Right.
And so now he gets to go teach because he got Visa under his belt.
So he'll never admit it, but
No. He would say he revamped Visa and made them what they are today.
Wow.
Right? So that's not uncommon, actually. Story yesterday.
That's unreal. Like, and to me, I mean, I personally, I've never been to college. I've never seen the need for it. So obviously, for those of you that know me, I do insurance and I do business, but never saw the need to go to college, specifically because I always felt like an MBA was something that like was never needed in business. The more that I'm in the business world, I'm realizing people don't give a shit about a degree.
So first of all, we are in Utah the most saturated MBAs per population in any state. So keep that in mind. So if you're going to get an MBA and stay in Utah, it may not pay off. And people say MBA preferred in Utah. It's not true. We're cheap asses. We're not going to pay for it.
Yeah.
So someone with experience and hard work, they'll be on an MBA any day in Utah.
Yeah.
So I'm with you on that too. Now, there are doors that will open with an MBA, right? I couldn't teach if I didn't have it, right? So if I wanted to go that route, there's opportunities. There's bigger corporations that require an advanced degree to get up the ranks, just because that's just the traditional model, right? You can't be a C-level suite of a Fortune 500 without it.
Right.
Because the board of directors want it, right? They just want to see that you've done the due diligence, know what you're talking about. But, the interesting thing about an MBA, this is a side tangent, but it is what it is. The MBA is basically your freshman year of business. Think about it. If you, let's say you have 20 years experience in accounting, okay? 20 years in accounting. You come to get an MBA, and I'm going to teach you about marketing. Can I teach you a 6th level course in marketing that you've never touched marketing a day in your life? I can't.
Right.
You've never done it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't give you the in-depth strategy of marketing if you don't know the fundamental basics. So guess what the MBA course in marketing is? It's a fundamental basic marketing course because you've never done it.
Right.
Right? And the same thing for me. I've never done accounting. So I'm going to go take an accounting course. It's not going to be an incredibly hard accounting course. So the MBA is overrated. I'll be honest.
No, I would agree with that. And I think to anyone out there who's thinking about, should I go to college for an MBA? I've had this discussion with multiple people, and I'm curious if you guys agree with me, but there's really only 2 things you should go to college for, in my opinion, right? And this might be totally out of whack, but if you want to be in the medical field and then as a lawyer, right? Those are the 2 things I would say that, honestly speaking, like those are probably things that you would need a degree for. Other than that, college is just, they're draining your money. They're sucking it out of you, man. But
I mean, I'm there, and the only other piece I see is there are some individuals who just don't know what they want to do. I think that's the third group.
Yeah.
They're not sure. They need to explore, build their network, build their horizons, build their culture. I mean, we get too much bias from our parents, and we're a little bit pig-headed. And so I don't think that hurts to get kind of a little bit more of a culture shock with the university. So I think that's the only third group I'd say, is those that are just not sure about their path of where they want to go. This is a great opportunity to come in and learn different things, different ideas, and dig into it.
And that's, there's actually a reason I was grateful to go to college, because I kind of fell victim to that whole, like, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do yet. So I went for the first, semester without even declaring a major yet, because you don't need to, because it's just generals. But
sure.
And then I went into the first major I had. That's why it took me 4.5 years to graduate instead of 4, because I changed my major after a year, and none of my credits transferred over because I mixed between the generals and the core, or the classes that were meant for the major. And for me, I'm glad I went to college, because if I would have stuck doing what I thought I wanted to do in the first place, then it'd be miserable. And I'm glad I switched my major and found that I wanted to go in more of a marketing route, because all throughout high school I did was film, and I was like, oh, I want to film. But so I declared that as my major finally, and then come to find out, what they're trying to teach is like more of like, oh, you want to make movies? And I'm like, that sounds boring as hell to me. I don't want to go sit on a set and film a movie, say action and cut. Like, most of what I did was highlight videos of like if I went on a trip or if I was filming like a motocross race or a basketball game, something like that. And that's what I liked doing. But it turns out that's more of a hobby than like a career path, is what I found for myself. And so when I went to these classes and they're trying to teach me how to make a movie, that's why I'm glad I changed. I was in a class, a film class, and the professor played us a video in there that said, if you want to be good at film, don't go to school for it. And I was like, what the fuck? What am I doing in here? Like,
literally in a class.
So I waited for that class to end, got up out of the classroom, and changed my major that day, and didn't finish the 3 weeks left in the semester, and just waited to go back.
Damn.
And now, ever since I changed, I had to do 18 to 20 credits a semester just to keep up the pace that I lost. But for me personally, I'm glad I switched, because I thought I knew what I wanted to do until I was actually doing it, and I'm like, this sucks bad.
Yeah.
And marketing is a lot more fun, quite frankly.
Well, and you're good at it, so.
I think, I'd say there's obviously a checkbox with education in terms of financial pay that can happen, right? That's been proven, that's been studies and all that. And that's a reason to go, just so you can check the box and get the certain jobs. Where I think more value and where students are lost is the other opportunities at the university, becoming friends with your professor. Like, here we are now, past student, and I'm on a podcast with you, and we're working together, right? And I've started business with past students. So meeting your professors, meeting your colleagues, meeting your peers, getting involved in clubs, and so that you never know who you're going to meet. I mean, hell, Qualtrics, a $6 billion company, was because two buddies were roommates in college. Right? So Ryan Smith, everyone knows, but very people know about Stuart Orgill. Well, Stuart Orgill made $700 million being someone's roommate.
That's crazy.
Okay, not a bad deal.
No,
okay?
it's not a bad deal at all.
So that's all I'm saying is, like, sometimes there's, but students don't take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Right, and so that's, I think, a lost.
Yeah, and no, I'm glad you brought that up too, because I personally, I never really thought about college as like a good networking opportunity, but I feel like networking is such a lost art in college, because you got these kids who are in that third group who are so focused on, oh shit, man, like, what do I got to do? Like, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I want to go this route, but they forget about the relationships and the connections. Oh, yeah. And that's really, I mean, like you said, now we're sitting here, it's like.
Yeah, and I think the difference about friendships between high school and college is the friendships you make in high school are hobby related, and most of the friendships I've made in college were mindset related.
Yeah.
So more of the people that you hang out with in high school are because you have similar interests in hobbies, but a lot of people that I've met and made friends with in college have the same mindset and want to follow the same path. And that was my favorite part about being there, was making those connections with people and being able to have that same, little networking group of people that have the same mindset as you do and want to pursue the same things and see other people around you, not only yourself, succeed. So that part of it I really did enjoy. There.
Can I put another plug for the problem of education, since I'm
absolutely.
here?
Yes,
all right,
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
because I tell this to my own colleagues and they ignore me. Here's my problem. So everything on the university, and COVID really drove this hard, was going online, right? Teaching online. Well, guess what? We are not the most affordable nor the most effective online program. Universities aren't. Right? People have been doing that for years ahead of us. The University of Phoenix is, and ITT Tech, well, which is out of business, but the Western Governors, I'm shooting shout outs for my competitors. But you know what I'm saying? Like even private business can teach you really well, better. And even you can go to Udemy and get better classes. Hell, I know a lot of professors that just throw YouTube channels on because it's better than what they can do.
Yeah.
Right? So my frustration is our differentiation, our key advantage in education would be bringing students in the classroom so they can learn emotional intelligence, so they can learn how to deal with each other, how to work in groups, how to deal with adversity and overcome fear and challenge yourselves and think critically. And so my biggest frustration is how much is moving to online, even in higher ed, because I think our ability to differentiate is bring people together. Mm-hmm. And that's where you really network. Face-to-face is still a big thing.
Yeah, when the whole COVID thing was going on, I feel like that's when I struggled the most in college, more like grade specific, is because I found myself getting a lot more distracted, and then I personally feel like I learn better if I'm there actually in person and talking to people and figuring out stuff together and actually being there to listen. Because when I had online classes, there's so many different distractions around me, and I just say like, oh, I can watch this video later, or oh, I can do this later, or it's online. So in my mind, for some reason, I'm thinking the due date or the deadline's like not as soon as it would be in a physical class. So I personally struggled a lot more when they went through the whole like online period of it, because every chance I got to have an in-class person, I did it. Obviously, you can't really help it as much when you get like into your higher education, because certain courses are only offered like online, or maybe if you don't register in time, then the only one left is online. But every chance I had, I did it in person, because I wanted to be there, because that's when I felt like I was the most prepared for the material that was being taught, rather than watching a pre-recorded video and like half looking at my phone, half looking at the video type thing.
Right. Well, and to go back to your point too, I like EQ is so much better than IQ.
Hands down. Oh yeah,
Like,
research is going crazy on that.
Yeah, you have to have it.
We can do a whole other podcast on that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Like it's one of those things where I feel like it's such a lost form that a lot of people don't understand, and which is why it probably makes sense there's that disconnect online, right? Because connecting with humans is essentially the way that we can progress in life. It's the way we can grow together as people. You don't get that interaction.
No, we're social creatures. We have to have it.
100%. And I'm curious, because I know universities, I mean, the government's got their hands in everything today, but as far as like government regulations, I'm curious how much COVID like affected, the government had to know what they're doing. All right, let's see how much we can separate these kids. Let's see how much we can separate people from one another and put everything online. Now we see jobs online. Now we see people working from home, and it's like they're trying to contain us almost. But
it's a control, right?
Yeah.
It's control, right? The more that they can control, the more that they can decide what we do with our futures. And honestly, a lot of us are okay with it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this generation, I talked to my students about this. I said, look, if I give you an app that told you how much money you could spend every day, would you let me control your finances? And a number of them would say, sure. Right? If I just knew what I could spend and let you take care of all the finances and the balancing and all of that, sure, no problem.
wow.
Like, that's what scares me.
That's disturbing.
It's very
honestly.
disturbing. It scares the hell out of me.
That's terrifying.
Right?
Jeez.
And it's happening fast. I mean, I was taught 7 years ago, and 7 years ago, I'd ask my class. I actually did this semester. I asked my class, hey, how many of you use Robinhood or any sort of kind of just fun retail app? And 7 years ago, 80% of my class. I asked it this semester, and maybe 2 or 3 students raised their hand.
Really?
Not even just kind of dabbling in it.
I use
Wow.
Robinhood.
Right? Just
For the
dabbling. Just have some fun.
Yeah.
Like, give yourself $100 and just learn,
Yeah.
if nothing else.
Just
Yeah.
mess around.
amazing.
Right when I first downloaded it, I probably should have watched a video on how options work, but I essentially was
Yeah,
like,
you gotta
oh,
learn.
so I'm just betting on if this is going to
Yeah.
go up or down. I'm like, this is fun.
Over under.
So yeah, instead of doing the over-under on a game, I'm like, I'm going to do the over-under on whatever the hell I was looking at the time. I think it was some like medical, which horrible investment in the first place.
like
but
pharmaceutical.
Well,
Yeah.
good
Depends.
risk reward.
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I did this like stock option, and I was looking at all these deadlines, and then I was like, well, this is fun. So like, oh, the more I put in, the more I'll get out. Okay. And so I started going through all the options, and then I started with I put like 5 in, and then saw like the return, and I'm like, this is exactly like Prize Picks. This
Yeah.
is exciting. But I didn't know what any of the numbers meant at the time. I was just like here's a red number, here's a green number, like cool. So I think I put like $100 on an option. And you know how there's a deadline, you can pick a deadline whether it's going to go up or down. So
Right.
I chose a deadline, and this one in the past week at the time had gone up like 42%
Oh, damn.
in like 7 days. But this was like right at the beginning of COVID, so everything was like, and so I put an option for it to keep going up, because at the time I was like, oh, if it's gonna go up, it's gonna keep going up. Like
Right.
I just assumed it was an S&P 500 or something, but I put $100 on it, and then 2 days later it had already hit the thing. But I was just like, I'm gonna let it ride. It's gonna keep going. And then by day 3, it was chopped in half. And then day 4, it was virtually non-existent. So like that was $100 I had and then didn't have 4 days later.
But
so.
see, you're getting experiences that most kids are too
But at least
afraid
I got
to
a
go.
dabble.
Too afraid.
Yeah.
At least I dabbled,
Yeah.
And after that, although I should have watched a video before on how it worked, I did watch a video after, and now I feel like I have a better understanding of how all of that works. But I did get to just kind of fish around in there and see what was going on. I figured out you lose your money just about as fast as you would at a casino if you do that type of thing. But
100%.
I think this tiki phobia, call it. It's the fear of failure.
Yeah,
This generation has a fear of failure.
they do.
Well, because on social media, I can be behind a keyboard and mouse, totally anonymous, and bully you all I want, right? So that's the problem with this generation. Is anybody can bully, anybody can pick on people, anybody can tell them, some pretty mean things, and that's unfortunate because now students are very afraid to get out of their shell and try new things and experience new things.
Yeah. I feel like that's even more escalated today too, because I've been doing content creation for 5-6 years now, and right when I first started, if I got one negative comment, I'd immediately delete the video, because when I was around 17, 18 years old, still in high school, that was still the point in my life where I cared about every single thing that somebody said or thought about me. I don't care now. I could give two shits about it. But when I was in high school, it's all about, what does this person think of me? Look, what does that person think of me? So every time I'd post some video and there'd be like 7 positive comments, I'd like make like little skits and stuff, and there'd be 7 people saying, oh, it's funny, and then one would be like, this is the shittiest video I've ever seen in my life, and then I'd be like, oh, and then delete the video even if it was doing good.
But the funny thing about that though, like the more negative comments you get, you're taking attention out of someone's day. You're winning.
Yeah, you're obviously winning at something.
Negative PR is still great PR.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah, and I feel like now it's gotten to a point where people are just saying it. Most of it, I feel like, comes from envy, especially if they're commenting on someone who's like a lot more successful than they are. But they, it's like they go in with the goal in mind of leaving a negative comment and expecting like some kind of retaliation. Yep. Like when we had Pierce on and he was talking about people that were just talking crap on everything he did, and it's almost like they're expecting him to retaliate. And then when he doesn't, like we had this kid on Pierce that said every time he got a negative comment, he'd just say, glad I could make your day, and do like a thumbs up, and then it would like piss them off because they're like, well, wait, you're supposed to like retaliate and get mad at me.
Validation.
But yeah, I don't know, there's such a fear of like failing and being judged now, especially in this generation, because everything's obviously a lot more online than it used to be. It's a lot less boots on the ground and a lot more, I'm going to sit behind my keyboard and talk shit on somebody while I eat my pizza rolls and drink chocolate milk. But no, it's what I learned is the faster you learn to let go of that and not care, the better my life has been, and the better everybody else's life is going to be. Yeah. Because no matter if the comment's true or not, it's not going to affect you. Yeah. It's going to affect them more than it affects you. So
the crazy thing is I've never met a winner who's like doing more or less than like what you're doing. Like winners are always going to be the type to bring you up. If someone's reaching out to you negatively, they're a loser instantly, because like you said, it's coming from a place of envy. It's coming from a place of, man, look at what he's doing. Like there's something that they want that you have that they're obviously never going to get, and they're probably beating the shit out of themselves for it. Most likely is my guess.
Or unhappy, right?
Yeah. So, but yeah, obviously, just kind of shifting back over to you. I'm curious, like, what are some of the things you said you came in with some notes today?
All right.
Some controversial. Dive into it? Yeah, let's dive into it.
Okay. I want to. The topic is entrepreneur, which is right, like one of the top topics. My problem with entrepreneur today. Here's what I want to throw out there and see what you guys think. I think we need to come up with new definitions. So here's where it's coming from. I've been at the university for 7 years. I'm a very accessible professor, so a lot of students come to me with a lot of ideas. And I can't tell them to their face that they're going to fail and it sucks and it's a horrible idea, because then I'm a shitbag at the university. But I promise you I'm thinking that for 99% of them. Yeah. Let me tell you one of my first ones. This is actually kind of funny. This is one of my first semesters at the university. A student comes to me. I hope he's listening, because he's probably going to laugh at this now. Newly married, right? And he said, man, I got this problem. Every month, my wife makes me go to the store and buy some tampons or other things for her, and I hate doing it.
Wonder what time of the month that is. Never experienced that personally,
So he's like, can I start a business where I do like a tampon delivery service or something like that? I'm like, dude, Amazon. Like, how hard is this? Right.
Yeah. It's already been. Sorry, dog. That's a horrible idea. Like, it's already out there.
Like, and grow a pair and tell your wife to get them herself. But I don't know if I can say that, but. Or I have to edit that. I don't know.
Oh man.
So, but I can't say that.
Right.
So I got to entertain that idea. I got to use some of my time. So I've been doing a lot of research on entrepreneurship, and here's my problem. How I see, like, think about, how do you define an entrepreneur? What's success for an entrepreneur?
I'd say success is overcoming every single hurdle. I mean, I've talked to entrepreneurs before. They're like, you're gonna experience new shit every single day. It's entrepreneurship is not for the weak of heart. It's the ones that can just make it through the end. Like, really.
I would say that's a good traditional identity of them.
Right.
Other thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's it's hard to draw the line for what you would consider an entrepreneur too, because someone could have a failing business or a business that they've started but hasn't taken off yet and say, oh, I'm an entrepreneur.
That's where I'm going.
So it's like, it's it's hard to draw that line in the sand of where you classify someone as an entrepreneur. And for me personally, I would have to see, okay, you started a business and you have at least 3 or 4 years of continuous growth and more ROI than you had when you started, or more money that you've put back into your company than when you started, or something that has proved that's been sustainable. But if somebody has a bit, like if there's some kid that owns wow, that's a hard word, landscaping business, or it's some kid that just mows lawns, and like a lot of people start their own business for that, but it's just them. And then they're like, oh, yeah, I started a business 2 months ago. I'm an entrepreneur. But at that point, can you call yourself one? I don't think so.
You know how many entrepreneur labels I see in Instagram bios nowadays?
That's my that's what I'm getting at. Okay? Like if I'm if I have a full-time job and I'm a Fiverr worker and I make a gig job of $50 a month, am I an entrepreneur?
Probably not.
So that's but they'll call themselves one,
right,
and they'll identify one, and we'll chalk them up data-wise as one. That's what I'm getting at. Like how do we define an entrepreneur at the moment that they're really an entrepreneur? Mm-hmm. And if we can't, then we need some other names, because I don't think you can take a serial entrepreneur who's got a much higher risk factor and willingness and tie that to the same person who can't leave their 8 to 5.
I think that's exactly how you define it. Who's willing to go all in?
All right. So that I think that could be one point, is who's ready to quit their full-time job to do it. Yeah. That could be a moment. I like that one. Yeah. I don't know if, all these other side hustles, consultants, Fiverr people may not.
Right.
So we've got to figure out, because I can't put those two entrepreneurs in the same category, right? I don't want to hear from Mark Cuban and then some person who does some Fiverr on the side. Like, those are just two different classes of entrepreneurs.
Right.
So I've started to do some homework on this. I'm not saying it's great, but this is my first attempt to talk about this and classifying entrepreneurship.
All right, let's hear it. I'm excited.
So here we go. So I'm defining it by risk tolerance is kind of where I started. Now, these names may not be great, and someone will probably take them and write a book off of them. That's usually how it goes, but here we go. I'm going to start with, so this is actually 70% of the population. I'm going to call it the casual entrepreneur. This is your side hustle, your consultant, your Fiverr, your gig, right, kind of people. The casual entrepreneur. Very low risk tolerance. So I think the risk tolerance is maybe like 25%. But this actually now today makes up 70% of entrepreneurs, as we would call them.
Wow.
Right, as they call themselves, as the data from the government comes on, this, starting up an LLC just to put, some costs in there, does, a sales bro who puts his company into an S corp.
Yeah.
Right, all of that can be considered entrepreneurship, if you will. And so that's the casual entrepreneur. I think that's there in a class, but I base it on their risk, 25% risk tolerance. The next one I call is the opportunistic entrepreneur. And their risk tolerance is more like 40%. They're not quite ready to give up their job, but they could do their business from home. If they're working from home, they might do some Airbnb. They might do some real estate on the side. They might do some philanthropic work on the side in a nonprofit or something like that. This casual entrepreneur. Now, here's another category. Here's another whole podcast. What's the ethics on holding down 2 jobs at the same time?
When you say ethics, like you're describing sacrifices? Or
no, I'm saying, hey, I'm working. I got $200,000 job from this job, $200,000 from this company. I'm both working from home. Mm-hmm. I'm taking from the same time. Is that okay?
I would say so. But
yeah,
I don't know. That's a hard line.
It's dicey.
I got students left and right doing this.
Yeah.
Right. So I one guy I play basketball with. He's $320,000 a year because he got 3 jobs. Now he got fired from one because he wasn't doing very good, but he's held the 2 for over a year. And he's half-assing both of them, obviously. Mm.
Okay, so in that case,
but he's staying employed.
Yeah, I would say if you're, and I'm assuming this is kind of the direction you're going, but if you're a true entrepreneur, you're 100% in. Your ball's deep, man. You're not going to be the opportunistic, right? You're not going to be the guy that's like, oh, let me put 50% over here, 50% over here. No, dude, entrepreneurs, like if you look at the real ones, they're all in every single time.
I agree.
So this guy's, he's good enough to keep a job, but not good enough to be the best at what he does for either of them.
When he's given 50%.
Well, 50% of both. He's good enough to make the company happy to keep him employed. So this is common. Like, this is all over the place. It's that these young generations holding down 2 jobs remotely and making a fortune.
Yeah.
I just don't know if it's ethically good. That's a whole other conversation. But right. But it's a form, right? It's a form of entrepreneurship, if you will, like giving a little extra time. The one that you guys that we both talked about, like if we're going to go all in, I'm going to call that the servant entrepreneur, simply because they become a servant of their business, right? They own it. Like this is it. And I think this is about a 75% risk tolerance. This is I'm going to dedicate the time. I'm going to stay up late nights. I'm going to sacrifice family. Here's the thing about sacrifice. Like people get sacrifice wrong. Sacrifice is to give up something good for something better. Just keep that in mind. It's not a sacrifice when it's shitty and sucks anyway. So, right. So this is giving up family time. This is giving up, this might possible a bankruptcy and all those type of things. This is probably someone who might take angel investment a little bit, but wants to be in control, but wants to be all in on their business and own it, right, and grow it. And I think that's a 75% risk tolerance. But keep in mind, that's 8% of the population of entrepreneurs.
Right.
It's very few. And then the last category that I have is the serial entrepreneur. And this person's 100% risk tolerance. This person, they're looking for a home run. They're all in financially. They'll take VC money. They'll take anybody's money. They'll do it again. They'll fail 1,000 times until they finally get it. Only 2% of all entrepreneurs are serial entrepreneurs.
That's insane.
Part of that category.
So I'm curious, with those numbers in mind, of the not the servant, the serial entrepreneur, out of that percentage, would you say that, I guess, where did the top 1% come from out of these categories nowadays, with statistically? Like,
it's got to be like 80% of that top 1% has to be serial, and maybe 20% the servant. Wow. There's no way you're getting there without that.
Right. So if you're an opportunistic, what were the other two?
Opportunistic or casual.
Yeah, you're not going to make that 1%.
I just don't think you are.
Yeah.
Right. Not that it's a bad thing, right? If I can find a gig that gives me $1,000 of extra a month, cool. Yeah. Well done. Right. Everybody could use that, but can you categorize them in the same category as somebody who sacrifices almost everything to do it?
Yeah, I don't think. And I think what's cool for our viewers too is maybe for those of you who are sitting out there like wondering, man, what kind of entrepreneur am I? Like, go look at your Instagram bio. Respectfully, take it out. If you're not that serial entrepreneur, or maybe even that servant entrepreneur, take it out, bro. Like, you're not him yet. So
I don't know. That's you're gonna piss people off by saying,
you know, and that's fine. I mean, honestly,
we call them something different.
I'm prepared to.
And if it just gets thrown around like that, then I could call myself, like, we're entrepreneurs. We started a podcast. We're entrepreneurs.
Oh shit, we got a side gig.
Yeah,
damn, look at us.
I film weddings in my spare time. I'm an entrepreneur.
Right.
It's maybe like, a couple a year, but I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
That's my own business.
I got an LLC. Look at me go. Yeah.
I make Instagram videos that make a little bit of money from Meta. I'm an entrepreneur, Parker. Did you know that?
Bro. I sell solar.
I'm a 3X entrepreneur.
No. All right, I pissed people off. I can see that. But I think because of how much there is out there, we've got to find some sort of classification. I've heard the term thrown out, solopreneur.
Yeah.
A little bit, right? Maybe we can start calling them that instead of entrepreneurs. I don't know. I don't like the name solopreneur. I hate saying it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's where I'm starting that today. Maybe your listeners or someone can kind of like decide if we're way off base, if we should categorize them all the same, or should we start giving them new names?
No, I actually like the format that you laid it out in, because I really, it does come down to, what did you call it? Risk tolerance, right?
Yeah, risk tolerance.
I mean, that is the biggest thing when starting a business. I mean, you look at like Patrick Bet-David, you look at these big guys, Mark Cuban, they went all in every single fucking time.
Yeah, and they failed a lot.
Oh, over and over. Like, constantly.
That's what I like hearing about those stories too. Is like the guy that started the Ring doorbell.
Oh yeah,
was on Shark Tank.
Was it
at the time it was called Doorbot, I think.
Yeah.
And then all of them said that's a shitty idea. Like that's you're asking way too much for way too little equity wise, and all of them were out.
Yep.
He's now worth more than everybody on that panel, besides Mark Cuban.
Yep.
And they all four of them at the time, I think the panel switches quite frequently, but it was the usual, like Mark, Damon, Laurie, and it was before Laurie. It was
Kevin O'Leary, maybe.
Yeah, Kevin, and then some other one, but they all said no to this idea. Like, and looking back now, it's like obviously now we're gonna think, oh, that's a great idea. I absolutely would have invested on it back then, but
right.
At the time that it was proposed to him, all of them were like, hell no, like get out of here. You're asking. I think the ask was like $1 million for like 7%, 5 to 7% equity, and they're like, "Are you insane?"
Yeah.
No.
He evaluated like hella high, and they're like, "Nah, get out of here."
Yeah, it turns out that probably would have been one of the best investments any of them have ever made ever in their life. And now, I think his I was looking at his net worth the other day from the Ring doorbell, and I think he's worth about just over $4 billion.
Wow.
Something else.
And they all said no to him.
That's going to take me down another path, actually. Because when Shark Tank talks about their successes, too, this is what drives me nuts. Hey, let's go back and look at this company they invested in. And now today they're making $2 million a year. And you know what? Mark Cuban doesn't give a shit about that company. I'm just telling you, like,
Oh,
it's
he
great
probably-
that
yeah.
success. Like, the guy makes $2 million on interest a day
Yep.
Yeah.
if he wanted to put it all in the bank. So,
Like, why do you think Kevin O'Leary is always like, oh, what's my royalty going to be? He doesn't give a shit, dude. He's like, I just want my royalties.
I just want money. Yeah, I
so-
want paid back.
Yeah.
So, but to that point, I want to bring this up to entrepreneurs too, because this is another thing that frustrates the hell out of me with young entrepreneurs. Let me ask you guys a question. What do you think is a good, right, a good salary you would want to pay yourself if you're ready to leave a full-time job? You know, you're a 10-year career veteran, you're making good money. What would it take to leave your job to become an entrepreneur? How much would you want to make?
Like, to start 100%?
Well, yeah, to get to a point where you're paying yourself a really good amount, you feel really good.
So this is assuming the business hasn't taken off and I'm starting at zero.
Well, no. It's what does the business have to make? I don't care. Well, we'll get to that. I'm just
Okay.
saying, what salary would you like to make as an entrepreneur?
I mean, I wouldn't want a ceiling. I'll
Okay.
put it that way.
All right.
If I own the damn thing, I don't want to put
All
a
right.
limit on myself. But
So, what would you pay yourself?
For me, I always told myself that if, you know, whatever I was doing, something I started, you know, whether it was something like this or the videos that I've been making for like content creation, I always told myself at whatever point I was making double doing that than what I'd be making at a 9 to 5,
Okay, I like that number.
then I would stop.
I like that.
If at any point, whether it's this, whether it's videos, whether it's, you know, anything I may start in the future, if I'm, just as an example, if I'm working a job that's $60,000 a year, if I was making $120,000 at the end of a year doing something like this or something else, then I'd stop
Cool.
doing my other job.
I like how you're framing that. Right. So that's what I want to get into. I mean, I don't know how much time we can get into the nitty gritties of this, but right, you have to think about the opportunity cost of sacrifice to leave a job. This is what I want to tell entrepreneurs. Right. If you're going to leave, you're going to do this. What's that good salary you eventually want to pay yourself when you get there? Well, I agree. I think I want to make quite a bit more than I could make at my 9 to 5, because the stress, the headaches, and the sacrifices had better be damn worth it.
Right.
So today, right, average salaries, I'm going to start in the marketing field, right? A good, almost executives, probably 150, maybe 175 a year. So I put a number down of 400,000. Like, if I'm paying myself $400,000 a year, that's probably worth going off and doing my own thing.
Right.
All right, let's go with that as a scenario.
okay.
If I'm going to pay myself $400,000, what do I got to make as a business to get there? Well, I've got insurance on top of that. I got business insurance. I got my personal insurance. I got double taxes that I have to pay as self-employment tax. So I'm at least $150,000 on top of that if I'm going to pay myself for it. So that's $550,000. All right. Now I'm going to reference this as digital marketing just because that's my field. So let's say I'm running an agency, and I'm going to do a monthly subscription to some services, say $2,000 a month. Well, here's the breakdown of that, right? So $2,000 a month. In agency work, it's about a 30% churn, just because it's a churn and burn model, just is what it is in industry. So I'm doing the math on this, and that means that I have to first get to myself to 65 customers. All right, 65 active customers in order to pay myself that salary.
With the subscription basis.
With the subscription, like $2,000 a month, say a 6-month contract.
Okay.
But because of that 30% retention rate, I have to acquire 39 new customers every year. This is just to pay myself that $400,000. All right, you ready for the math on this? If I'm going to work just to 40 hours a week and not extra time, right? So I'm going to spend 40 hours a week just on my client. This isn't accounting. This isn't finance. This isn't marketing. This isn't sales. This is just time spent on my clients, my active clients, 40 hours a week. I can then, with my 65 customers, I can spend a total of 19 hours per customer.
Per customer per year?
Per 6 months.
Per 6 months.
Per 6 months.
Okay.
All right. 19 hours per 6 months, which if I break it down per month, basically I am charging that customer $375 an hour for my time.
Yep.
And that's if I'm spending just the 40 hours. That means I'm not doing any other work. I mean, you know, entrepreneurs don't understand it's 80-hour weeks jobs.
Yep.
So on top, if I'm spending 8 hours a week, I actually want to make $700,000 because, you know, I'm working twice as hard, like all the other sides of the business. And so, you know, and then all of a sudden I got to find a way to keep all, and that's not sales and marketing for new client acquisition.
That's existing.
That's just existing
Yeah,
work.
That's crazy.
That's just the 40 hours spent on existing client work. You know, that's the hard ass nature of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
No, and I think I'm glad you touched on that point because I think a lot of entrepreneurs, when they're going into it, they're not doing the math and breaking it down on that aspect, right? Because we all know, right? Time's your biggest asset. You have to figure out how you're going to leverage people in your business. You're going to have to figure out how you're going to leverage your own time. And when you break it down this way, you really are dissecting like, okay, if I have X amount of clients, this is essentially how much time I'm going to be putting into them. Because at the end of the day, I think the whole reason entrepreneurs get into entrepreneurship is for freedom and for more time, right? And so if that's really the end goal and you want to make X amount so you can spend X amount of time, you're going to have to break down numbers like this.
Yeah, you got to figure, like, and that's the point, is that's just working on your clients.
Yeah.
Not all the other hard headaches, and that's not even hiring somebody, which is another whole headache.
Assuming everything goes well, too.
I think that's how you can get rid of a lot of entrepreneurship labels, though. If you walk up to all the people that have it in their Instagram bio and you ask them, are you willing to give up whatever job you have now for your entrepreneurship?
Yeah.
And if they say no, take that shit out of your bio.
Yeah.
Right?
You're not an entrepreneur then.
Yeah.
But like seriously, ask that question. Like all jokes aside, ask yourself that question: is, am I willing to give up what I have right now to pursue what I'm trying to create? And if your answer to that is no, you're not an entrepreneur yet.
What do we call them?
Hopeful.
Embryos,
Wannabes,
baby,
I don't know,
builders.
man.
I don't know. Like we got to come up with that name some point in this.
Puppets.
Start it here, right? The
Yeah.
podcast. Well, they want to be. They want to think they have a chance, right?
EITs.
Drop
We're gonna
us-
call them EITs.
Drop us names in the comments. I'm
Entrepreneurs in training.
I'm curious what you guys come up with. So drop it in the comments and what you think we should call the, I don't know, wannabes, whatever.
The entrepreneurship
All right.
hopefuls.
Yeah.
They need a label.
So I need to throw that out there because again, I have so many students come to me saying they want to do it, and they just haven't broken it down.
Yeah.
It's like, guys, you really don't want to do this. I promise you. Like this is hard.
Yeah.
It's you say you want more freedom and more time. That doesn't come day one.
Right.
That comes after you pay.
There's
the
blood,
price.
blood, sweat, and tears.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then you start to get some of the perks down the road. So what I'm working on though, so I that's just something I want to throw out there. But what I've been looking into research wise, is if I could create a calculator that could calculate your odds of success as an entrepreneur.
Interesting.
That's what I'm working on.
Is it like as a tech project or?
As my own personal research.
Damn,
So-
that's kind of sick.
That's cool.
So
I
we're
just
in the
got
middle
a
of this.
sticky, dude.
Okay.
Like holy. Okay.
So I'm going to give you a little details about it, but I haven't built it yet.
Okay.
all right? But I have went and found I tried to find research on factors of success, right? And so I found about 50 papers, professional papers that have been done, research papers, and I am digesting all of those and trying to see if I can come up with some coefficients of factors so I can put a calculator together.
Okay.
All right. So the problem with all these research, and this is why I think I'm going to be the first to do this, is they all researched kind of a subset or a little piece of it. Like someone said, oh, venture capital research, right? Venture capital entrepreneurs. And someone went out and said, well, what about networking? And someone said, well, what about financial models or business model, right? And so there's been lots of segments done on this, but nobody's kind of bringing it all together and seeing if there's some sort of factor given. So that's what I'm working on. So little introduction to that. Just if anybody cares about the factors, here's a little bit of that research.
Yeah.
All right. So key factors of success. I think number one is defining what success, what we just got done talking about. What is success for you? Is it that you're going to be a puppet, what are we calling it, right? We're going to get in trouble for that, probably, right? Or are you going all in and you're going to, you want to be a billionaire, right? Where do you fit on that? Interestingly, this was number 2 factor is skills, personality, commitment, and sacrifice in a category.
That's one category.
That's one category. The skills,
Okay.
personality, and commitment you bring to it is huge. Which I was kind of surprised, but not. But since I do some angel investing and some VC investing, as an investor, you're 50% invested in the person as you are the product.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
it's
100%.
huge.
That's huge for especially like influencers too. That's a huge thing. So any influencer that has like millions and millions of followers that start all these side businesses, like they have an energy drink or have this or that, people buy it not because they give a shit about what the product is. They buy it because they care about the person or follow the person.
Yeah. Well, and you look at sales professionals too. Like one reason why I'm going to start writing your insurance is because you're going to like me a lot more than your other agent. Right? So because I've got the confidence to say that, right? And so, I mean, even salespeople, man, like they're going to buy from you regardless of if your product's more expensive, even if it's like, you sell yourself half the time. So.
Absolutely. So that was a huge piece of that. And
Yeah.
what skills and personality you bring to it, right? Do you? And so I think there's even a whole calculator on just, do you have the right personality? Right?
Yeah.
Do you have the piece of that? Which there's actually a good book written on that, The E-Myth Revisited by Gerber. And 2 key points he makes in that book are great. One, what's your primary aim? That's the first piece. Like, what do you want in life, right? And another key piece he talks about in his book is about making your business franchisable. Whether it's a franchise or not, making it franchisable. If you have a business model that requires attorneys to run your business, you can't replicate that. You can't scale that.
Right.
If you have a business model that takes somebody who can put some fries in a fry cooker and come out, you can replicate that all day long.
Yeah.
Right. So franchisable. But anyway, third piece, network and funding. So what team do you bring? What advisors do you bring? What partners do you bring? And what money? So money obviously is a huge factor of success in entrepreneurship. So it's not surprised that that's a big piece that comes into this. Right. And the only piece that I thought that was interesting, it's not just funding, but it's who your advisors are. Right. And I think entrepreneurs forget a lot about this. Who you bring into the table, who's done it, been there, been in the trenches, has a network, knows what they're doing. Right. That's a big piece of this too.
Mentors are huge, man.
Yeah.
They're everything. Because if you have a shitty mentor, I mean, you're bound to fail.
Yeah. So that's right. Ann Collar, you guys know Ann Collar here locally, right? He's one of my students. I helped him get started doing shirts, and that was a big part of his success. Is who did he surround himself with? So one of his mentors did Traeger Grills. I forget his name, right? And started Traeger Grills. And
wow.
Yeah. And so one Stance Socks, right? The guy who started Stance Socks is one of his mentors. So he's got a great mentor group.
It's a perfect networking spot to be.
Going crazy.
Yeah.
Fourth is business model. So scalability, automation, data, channels, and all that plan is a factor of success. And so, and I think that's big, right? Data today, if I'm going to invest in a company, they better have a data model somewhere on the back end. If it's not day one, how are you going to sell, acquire, use data effectively? Right? That just has to happen. So 5, financial model. So pricing, revenue, metrics, burn. What kind of burn is going to happen? So understanding your financial model. Then there's the external factors. And I'm kind of, as I've done this research, this is kind of like high to low, but it's not perfect yet. External factors, which is industry, economy, geography. All right, the 5 forces, those type of thing, Porter's 5 forces. And then 7 is research. So your model, your product, your customer, like proof that you're ready to go, that there's an audience that's ready to buy, right, your product and those type of things. The last one, less important factors. I put this as kind of like a 0.2% coefficient. Intellectual property, R&D, difficulty, branding, like a few of those other categories, not as hard. That's what the research has shown so far.
Wow.
So there's a little. Then you don't have to read 50 research papers. I just did it for you.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So, and how long has it taken you to gather like all this data?
This has been months.
Months?
Just reading on the plane, reading wherever I am, like trying to understand. Because it sucks when you read PhD papers because you got to go through all the science and all the background just to get the answer you're looking for. So
right.
I'm doing all that hard work for you.
Yeah, no one wants to do that shit.
No,
I'm telling you, I
hate reading those things, but it's important.
Yeah.
So here's something I want to leave you with. So I'm going to dig into those factors and try to determine the ratio of those factors as they're applied, and then we can do some sort of calculator with that, right? So based on some questions that can be asked. But I wanted to break it down in simplicity for entrepreneurs today. So anybody listening who is an entrepreneur, who wants to be an entrepreneur, here's just some of those key factors that they should consider, okay? Where are they at with revenue, right? So where's your revenue status, right? We've already kind of gone through that a little bit. Funding. Biggest problem with entrepreneurs is their ego. Gets in their own way.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you have to have an ego to say you can do it, right? There's something there.
Maybe confidence. I don't know if I'd say ego. But
well, that's the thing. Confidence is great.
Confidence, yeah. Ego is going to kill you every time. I mean.
And I've watched so many businesses not become great, not have the opportunity because they won't let go of the reins. There's a saying we say in VCs, finders, keepers, founders, weepers. Okay.
Man, those VCs be snatching everything, man.
All right, but the thing is, the founder just becomes so emotionally, and they have a vision of only so much, right? And that's where we want to take it to the next level. And so, typically, Weave. Weave's a great example. It wasn't Josh James, was it? And Weave.
That's the integration company, right?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
So he got kicked out just before they went public. He made his fortune. I don't know why he's upset, but it happens, right? You just somehow, you got to let that founder go and take it to the next level, right? So, but too many people are afraid to take money. I'm just sorry.
Like as founders?
Yeah, as founders, as entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Even if it's angel money, if you don't want to give up control, but let's see, 10% of a billion is a lot more than 100% of a million. Put it that way.
100%.
So just think that in mind. So they got to look at their barriers to entry. So I get a lot of students come in and they're like, hey, I want to start a medical device. I'm like, well, how much money do you have? Like, I got nothing. I'm like, oh, shit. This happens a lot. Right? So you got to know what it's going to take to develop a device, to manufacture it, to source it, right? Like if you don't have a network of money to help fumble through that, move on. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say that nicely. Again, we talked about your goal. Know about your goal. How long can you go without a salary? Ask yourself that question.
Wow. I think that's big, especially with inflation today.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You're going to need to figure out, hey, what are my expenses going to be? How am I going to take care of my basic needs, right?
Because you're not going to pay yourself a salary for a while.
Oh,
Yeah, and there's kind of a business saying. It's like everybody has an idea, but not everybody has a plan.
Yeah.
So it's like how much time are you expecting to lose? How much are you willing to sacrifice? And how many days, how many weeks, months, years are you willing to go without making a single penny?
Yeah.
So that's good. So next, largest competitor. So look at the size of the industry, the opportunity, right? If it's not huge, then don't do it.
Yeah,
right?
don't go for it.
Don't go for it. And part of that pricing. So this is another one I hate when students come to me. Is like, hey, so and so Microsoft. You can't compare yourself to them, but try. Okay, Microsoft can do this, and I can do it for 10 times cheaper. You know, my answer to them is, one, why would you? If there's already a price set, why would you do it cheaper? If people are already willing to pay an X amount of money for something, why sell it to them cheaper? That's problem number one. And problem number two, when you become as big as that company, will you be able to do it cheaper? No, I promise. And so, like, I hate when people come to me and say, oh, I can do everything cheaper. Well, that's fine today,
Right.
but not down the road.
Would you argue it's just better to keep the same price point?
Sure. Like,
If
why would
people
you
are willing to pay that.
why would you destroy the market?
Yeah.
Why would you come? I mean, even if you could, right, come in with something incredibly cheaper. We just had an MBA project, and that's what this client came in and is like, hey, we just found this cool way to manufacture something that sells for thousands of dollars a ton, and we can sell it for pennies on the ton. And like, hey, how do yeah, and that's my point. Like the MBA students went off, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, why would you?
Yeah.
Why would you dare do that?
Yeah.
If that's what the market's paying for it. So
If there's a price that's already been set that people are willing to pay for, then there's no reason to undercut that price
There's not.
and try and sell it for cheaper. The best thing you could do is like find something that's already been made and figure out how to make it better.
Yep.
But you don't have to change the price point. You could even make it even more expensive, but convince people through research and whatever you've come up with that yours truly is better. If somebody's willing to pay $200 for something, you're not gonna you don't go, well, I could do that same thing and sell it for $75.
Well, and here's
Why?
the crazy thing. You know the type of consumers you're going to attract? The cheap asses, the ones that just want the cheap shit. And then guess what? Eventually the marketplace is going to label your stuff as a cheap product. And
yeah,
guess
that's
what?
the market you're going after. That's right.
Yeah,
You're a
and-
Walmart.
Yeah, good. Congrats. Like,
Good
you
job,
did it.
entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Well done.
I mean,
Instagram
Walmart's
bio.
not a bad option to be. I mean,
Yeah,
the biggest family in the world. But it is, it's just you're just cheap, and that's where you're going to position yourself. The next one is research. Holy shit. So many of these guys don't do a little bit of research, right? Is somebody willing to pay for what you've got? Like, just if you can't even ask someone that, you probably shouldn't be an entrepreneur. Just doing a little bit of research, a little bit of validation. Does somebody really want the product or service you have to sell? Is huge.
Yeah.
You got to kind of ask yourself a question too. Is like if there's something that's similar to what you created, and you kind of put the whole thing back in your shoes, it's like, would you rather buy what you made versus the other one? If you have something that you think is similar but better, and you be completely honest with yourself, would you rather buy your product as opposed to theirs?
Or even similar equivalent. Like, you could still have something that's very equivalent to what people have, but if you know people are already buying it, like, I mean, that like you said, why do it cheaper? So, can it do the same thing if not better, right? But
So the next one that's hard, because we got to talk about ego and confidence, is knowing what skills you don't have, right? Like, if you're going to do a software product and you're great at sales and you're summer sales bro, fantastic, but you're not a developer.
right.
Developer resources are insanely difficult. Like, that's the biggest thing prohibiting businesses from starting is either a developer or a salesperson, right? And those are hard to find, good people in that category. So if you're one of those two, you need to find a good team member to join you and get it going. Because you can be the best developer in the world. I mean, great products have never hit the market or never gone anywhere because they can't be sold.
There's a lot of great ideas that have died
Yeah.
that are missing one single piece to a puzzle that could have built it into a
All the time.
billion-dollar business.
That's sad.
But that is sad to think about. Like someone who has an incredible idea and a great plan, a great business model, but there's no back end. There's nobody to, market it, or whatever piece may be missing. There's been a lot of ideas that have died because of one missing piece or one person that didn't put as much effort into it as the other person.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs want to be the jack of all trades. You got to have the right people in place, man. You can't be the guy that does it all. You can't be the software engineer. You can't be the sales guy. You can't be all of that. There's just no way.
It's
Look
very
good to great. Get the right people on the bus, man.
Yeah, it's very important to surround yourself with the right people. And the guy we had on last week brought up like a super interesting point. He told us to to open the notes on our phone and then write down the 10 names of people we've talked to today. And he said, okay, now out of those 10, how many of those have helped you towards your goals?
Mm-hmm.
Or how many would you say are a positive aspect in your life and are actually helping you? And mine was 1. And he's like, that's the thing. Once you get to a point where the last 10 people you've talked to, 8 or 9 of them are ones that are trying to help you at the same time, then you know you've found the right people to be around. 9 of the 10 people I talked to were just to shoot the shit, like to have a conversation with. But were they really did they have my best interest in mind? No. So he's like, as soon as you surround yourself with people that you can honestly tell yourself that they're helping you towards your goals, then that's when you know you found the right group of people to be around. And the only person on my list that I had talked to that was actually helping me with that was Parker. He was the only name on there that was helping me with that. But no, I think it's super important to surround yourself with the right people, especially if you're trying to like start a business or something like that. Because if there's at least one person, if there's 8 people and one person, 7 of 8 people are, working their ass off towards it, and there's one person that's not meeting the standards, the whole thing can crumble because of one person.
Cut the fat, man.
So yeah, most important we talked about is risk tolerance. And you've got to figure this out because success is on the other side of risk. And this is here's a little personal, right? This is my biggest happiness and sadness at the same time is I'm comfortable. And comfortable is scary because I've been comfortable since 2018 where I had a great exit. I've got a great real estate portfolio. I've got my retirement set. So I am very hesitant to take a risk. I'm very hesitant. And I don't know why. Like there's this barrier where I'm not willing to go all in, to stay up at night, to not go boating. I mean, I got a couple houseboats, right? I mean, I got a number of pleasures that I'm now not willing to sacrifice in order to really start something good. I've had tons of failures now in the last 7 or 8 years because I'm not going all in.
So where's that fear deriving from, you think? I'm curious.
I don't like let my
comfortability.
Yeah, comfortable. That's what I'm saying. I'm just so comfortable that I'm not going all in. I'm not giving it my all, and I'm really mad at myself. Like how do I fix this? Like, I don't want to sell it all. I really like my travel and all of that, but what do I do?
Can I ask you a question? Are you the big fish in a small pond right now?
No, I don't know.
Like, meaning, do you have a higher networking group or people out there?
Oh, yes, absolutely. You're absolutely
cool.
right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah. I'm not networking with the right people possibly, too.
Okay. Because that's what I've noticed. I mean, granted, I'm not.
No, I'm with you. You're right.
But what I've noticed in just talking with some other high-level networkers and entrepreneurs is like, dude, you have to be the smallest fish at every table.
You're right. I'm missing that. Yeah.
So
I'm the one giving back all the time.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of how can I learn? How can I grow? How can I get on someone's shirt tails and just love it with them and grow it? Like I'm missing that.
Yeah.
And maybe that's one of the downsides of being at UVU is I am kind of the big fish. Like I look at my colleagues and I'm probably the wealthiest in the business school.
I love how we did a double take.
Well, I'm just saying, like, I know my colleagues, and I don't know very many who's had any business exit and still teaching at that university.
Well, so here's I guess the only thing I'd extend to you is, dude, let's get you at a big table. Like,
My fear is, though, am I going to be willing to do what it takes? Because I know what it takes. I've been there.
Yeah.
It's really comfortable right now, and I'm having a hard time giving it up. I'm trying a hard time getting passionate about something again, right? And just building something. I mean, I loved it. Like, it fuels me. It's awesome. And right now, I love sitting on the sidelines. Oh, I'll give you a little bit of money. Like, I got a couple of big investments in Houston, and I'll just give you some money and you figure it out.
Yeah.
But I am getting that itch a little bit.
I guess my question is, what kind of entrepreneur are you?
I'm kind of the casual one. It's frustrating me the hell out of me.
And I'm saying that in the most loving way, just because I want to. I don't know. I just always like to push people, and I like to make sure that they're fulfilling their full potential. And I get where you're at, dude. I'm still stuck. I've been stuck before, and it's like it's the worst place to be because you know you can be doing more. And if it's something in you where you're just like, fuck, man, like I know I can be doing more, go after it, bro. I got your back. I'll support the shit.
I have a hard time. I can't find it.
Yeah.
What's going to trigger that passion? Where, all right, hey, I'll sell all my real estate to do this. I haven't found it yet, and maybe it's because I'm comfortable. I'm not looking for it,
or maybe the right opportunity hasn't come along.
So that's anyway, that's just a little personal note on that. So
no,
would you say you know somebody that's more comfortable or more comfortable than you making less than you do? That would be my driving thing right there. Is if somebody was more comfortable than I am, making less than I was, then I'd be like, fuck, I gotta do more.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of people who are comfortable making a simple salary, right? And they're happy and they're comfortable and they're okay with that. Like my brother cannot be an entrepreneur. It'd kill him. He has to work for. He just can't do it. He doesn't have the. I don't get it. He just doesn't have it. I don't know why I have it.
And for me, like that would drive me nuts. And that's always been my thing. Is like, I would absolutely not be comfortable just doing the same, 9 to 5, day in, day out. And I think the thing that bothers me is like, I don't like a ceiling. I don't like to be told how much I'm gonna make. I hate that. If somebody's telling me or giving me a script on how much I'm gonna make in what amount of time, that bothers me personally.
Yeah.
And that's why I've always kind of wanted to try and create something on my own and actually push for that, is because if somebody told me in 10 years, if you stay with us in 10 years, this is what you can be making, that absolutely bothers the shit out of me, because I'm like, I could double, triple that. And I guess
happens.
my biggest bother is...
It doesn't.
Yeah. My biggest bother, is being told what I'm going to make.
Well, it's like that
there's a ceiling.
It's like that experiment with fleas in a jar, right? You put the lid on, they used to jump in a certain height. After a while, you take the lid off, they're still jumping that same height.
That's what they got used to. Yeah.
But
well, let me give a little plug and a little bit that I have been doing. All right, because I feel like this is a little bit of vindication of my life. Maybe I'm right at that precipice of the next thing, because when I went to UVU, there was something else that they told me that was pretty cool. UVU said, Priz, we want to start a business on campus.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And so that's actually what was the driver to get me to come over. I said, all right. What I didn't know is university time is not business time. Holy shit, it's not even close.
Like just slower?
Oh, freaking slow.
Yeah.
Like ridiculous. So 3 years we haven't even considered it.
Damn.
3 years in.
So,
right, wow. 3 years of my life. And then I remember this to this day. I wrote a letter to the dean of the business school. My letter was exactly this. When are we going to cut through the bureaucratic bullshit and get this done? That was my exact letter to him.
I love it.
30 seconds later, I got an email back saying, let's do it. So that was the moment where it started. I came to him with a lot of big ideas, a lot of different options, and we ended up settled on an on-campus marketing agency. We don't have a time. That's a whole other podcast to talk about the shit and hell I went through. But here's where I feel good. To have started a business in government bureaucracy garbage, I can start a business anywhere. There is some confidence now.
That's crazy.
Because I put my own money into it. I went against all odds. I almost quit my job probably 15 times doing this. It was a passion of mine. By the way, there's no dime that I get from this. I don't get extra pay. I don't get extra salary. I don't get extra perks. I don't get extra benefits. Hell, half my colleagues hate me because now I'm making them look bad. Shit, I hope they're not watching this. They're going to hate me even more.
Yeah.
And because I'm out there just hustling. But after the past 3 years, we now have almost a full stack marketing agency. Run 18 students are now getting experience, getting paid internships. It's a year-round agency. I've just been able to hire a director, which is another one of my past students. So full circle, right? Just getting everybody involved and helping it out. And it's now finally starting to get legs. Actually, we just had a meeting this morning, and our goal for the year was to hit 100,000 in revenue. And this last quarter, we had 106,000.
Hell yeah.
In the quarter.
Good shit, dude. That's awesome.
So bringing stuff into a university and against all odds, like maybe I'm at that point where it's, maybe I was, because that was my passion project for the last 3 years. Put everything I had into it to give these students that opportunity. And I'll tell you, I'll never do it again. If I had to do it over again, I would have taken it off campus and done my own.
Yeah.
I could have done it so much faster and better, but there are some perks of resources the university gave us that help out a little bit.
But see, that's got to give you confidence, though, because like you said, if you can do that underneath, the bureaucracy that you did, then dude, the sky's the limit for you, man.
So I might be at that point once, because I've now got the director. I'm kind of starting to wean myself off, and then maybe something else is coming in the future. I don't know.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: if you were to start, what were we calling it? The entrepreneur term? The
Solopreneur? Or
puppet?
Puppet?
If you were to become a brand new puppet today, in today's market and everything, if you were to start a business again, ground up, what field would it be in?
Well, it's funny because I'm working on one right now. So here's another plug. This wasn't on purpose, but you went back. This is another whole thing we talk about. So my first business, I took a technology out of a university. Now here's the perks of that, and I've got a second one right now. The perks of that is all of the R&D, all the funding has already been taken care of. So all I'm going to pay is a little royalty, and I got to do a little bit of polishing to make it, ready for business, because that's not what they do at the university. They just make it ready for research and publication. So you got to polish the turd a little bit and then take it to market. It's one of the that's the world I know. And so when I sold my business in 2018, I went immediately back to my old boss. Said, "Hey, what's the next technology you got for me?" He's like, "Oh, I don't know. Well, we got this one so my first technology, right? Ed tech languages, right? A language test for universities." So I go back and he's like, "Hey, we got this kind of one sitting around out of the family sciences department." I'm like, "All right, well, what is it?" He's like, "Well, let's go talk to him." All right. So it's called Relate, and it's a relationship test. You ready for this? $38 million of research, 290 million data points. This test is the most comprehensive, accurate relationship assessment on the planet. And let me say, how do I say that? They've published papers showing that this test, I'm not marketing it this way,
right.
This test can predict divorce with 93% accuracy.
Holy shit. So where are they pulling these data points from?
They went back all the way to the first date that they ever was taking data about relationships, 1920s. So data since the 1920s, brought it all in, did a ton of research, $38 million. I didn't pay a dime of that.
Yeah.
I paid a little licensing fee. We had to put it on AWS server, put it out there, find a market for it. Because, if you do a relationship test with eHarmony or whatever Tinder, whatever those are, their biggest likelihood of success is zip code. Am I close to somebody, right? Yeah. Which is garbage, but that's how they make money.
That's not very accurate. So with these data points though, I'm curious how they're able to pinpoint it so accurately. Obviously they've been taking data since the 1920s, but how do you compress all of that?
That's to where it's algorithms, research. It's psychometrics. I mean, that's all the kind of stuff that they do.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is I'm still feeding them data from people who take the test. And their goal, these people are a little weird over there. Their goal is to not only predict if, but when in marriage. That's what they want in the data, right? Predictive analytics of when you're going to get divorced. Now,
they're trying to see the turnover rate.
There's actually a lot of benefit to taking the assessment. So the general answer to your question is there are untapped, amazing technologies at universities. And a lot of these universities are losing their tech transfer offices and losing funding. And so there's huge opportunities. Now, VCs will come in and take big ones, right? Biomedical, engineering ones.
They will swoop.
But there are there are hundreds of mid-cap opportunities for every $1 billion opportunity. Mm-hmm. And they don't get the eyes of the VCs because the startup capital is so expensive for those. So if you've got a turnkey model, sales and marketing model with a little bit of programming, you could take any one of these and turn it into a $10, $20, $30 million company.
So how do you do that? Let's say you have one of those mid markets. What do you do to take that to that level where you don't not necessarily attracting the VCs, you're not attracting the the angel investors, but how do you get in front of the right people, the right eyes to really take that off?
From my standpoint, you got to have sales and marketing.
Yeah.
And that's right. That's really and digital marketing, you got to know it really, really well, right? So you can play against big fish. So because of how I know it, I can go up against any big competitor in any field and be successful with much less budget. So that's the first thing you got to know, right? You got to know your channel. The other channel, you got to know sales. You got to know how to get out there and get in front of people, whichever sales channel you're going to go through, partnerships, channels, direct, whatever it might be. That's how you start, right? Though you need those two things to start anything, and I don't care what the product is. You can give me freaking ice to Eskimos, and I'll sell it. Yeah. Right? I that's the point.
Sell me this pen. Right?
Yeah.
Sound familiar? Yeah.
So that's the point. Is build that model into your organization, and you need a little bit of software development today, and you take anything. I can take any product, any field, doesn't matter.
So going back to, I'm curious, is there somewhere where I can go, maybe online, where I can just see all these mid ideas that aren't getting attention, and I can go in and be like, ooh, I like this one, and run with it?
Some are better than others, right? So the Tech Transfer of BYU has this creative works department where they do publish a few of those. They don't keep it up to date because it's not their goal, right? University of Utah does a phenomenal job, but they're very well funded now, and so it's a little bit harder to break those gates. So if you found the right universities, like New Mexico State's phenomenal, UNLV is great because they don't have big tech transfer offices. But unfortunately, it's not published. What I had to learn to do is if you went in to do this, if you were to break into this field, you'd have to go in and first prove. So here's what happens is professors come to tech transfer offices and they're not big enough to help them. And so they kind of turn them away. All right, they can only be selective. And then those professors get jaded and upset. Mm-hmm. So that technology is either sitting on their lap or they're trying to market it themselves, but they suck at it because they're professors. And so you have to get in the doors with tech transfer, become their friends first, and then literally just go out and say, okay, which professors have approached you before and become friends with the professors?
Yeah.
You know?
know.
So yeah, you got to network amongst the university so that they'll come to you, and you first start be the friend of tech transfer, because professors are going to come to tech transfer and they're going to say, well, I can't help you. Oh, but I got this company who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Let me refer you to them.
So have you seen any scenarios or instances where maybe they go back into the archives, they take out all of these data points, these ideas, and it's actually ran and been successful for? Have you ever seen that happen? Or
Universities, that's why I'm teaching, because I'm hoping to find one of these where it's just been around. But, speed to market matters too.
Yes.
We got that's frustrating. Here's a frustrating experience. I got a colleague. He's got an amazing technology, but AI is going to wipe him out. He's been spending the last 10 years of his life to create a software. So you're on a sales call with me. It can determine my inflections, my words, and my tones to help you, the salesperson, shift your message.
Holy cow.
On the fly, based on how I'm reacting with emotional intelligence.
So it can almost read body language, like the sense, the feeling.
Audio tonations, everything, like words,
unreal.
all of that. Problem is in about 2 years, AI is going to be able to do that.
Right.
And so that's sometimes the challenge is a lot of it sits there and never hits the day. Like on a side note, I know we're running out of time.
Oh no, we're good.
Here's a fun one. So there was a professor that came to me. I was doing languages, and he had gotten $2 million to do Swahili. So he built this amazing course, like 16 credits worth of course on Swahili. He was a videographer, so he crushed it. Amazing content. He's like, all right, I want to sell this. I'm like, awesome. So I went and researched. Guess how many universities worldwide teach Swahili? 2.
So he spent all that time.
Yeah, so that's our marketplace.
Oh my god.
That's sometimes the problem with researchers. They do because their goal is to create new things, but not necessarily those new things are important to the world.
So you had nobody to sell it to.
Nothing. No, I had nobody.
Damn, that
I had
sucks.
one university, Michigan State, and CIA were the only 2 that were interested in it.
So there were no other universities who were like, oh yeah, we could start teaching Swahili.
No, they don't care.
Right. I mean, who the fuck goes out and they're like, ooh, Swahili. That's
So
that's
that
my
sometimes
language.
happens too. So
Yeah.
you got to weed through some stuff and learn things. But if I was going to start, that's the world that I think is still very untapped, is the mid-cap market opportunities at universities.
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome. I personally, for myself, I'd be curious to figure out how to tap into those and maybe just give these guys a chance, like with some opportunities. I mean, if VCs don't necessarily know about it, or if they're just not interested, there's opportunity out there.
No, they're not interested in a $10, $20 million cap.
Yeah, they don't want it.
No,
So,
they want the big one
yeah,
because they're going to fail. I mean, 10 and 20, that's just too small.
right. And you got to have some business experience to know what you're doing, and
Yeah.
it's too risky for them. So, that's freaking awesome, man.
That's insane.
All right,
There's
full
a lot
circle here. 2 truths and a lie.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I totally forgot about that.
All right. So you said the bowling was the lie.
Yes.
So across
300.
across the street here, you have a bowling alley,
Yeah, are we going?
Jack and Jill's.
Okay.
No, I want you to walk over there and look on top of lanes 3 and 4.
Damn.
You're going to see my name
That's
with a 300 right next to it, up on a plaque.
That's fucking crazy.
So I did that a few years ago. I hit my 7th continent during COVID. I went to Egypt, went to Africa, and I've already been to Antarctica years ago. So I've been to all 7 continents. But here's the crazy one.
Okay.
The third one was the largest board game collection in the world, Guinness Book of World Records. It's happening in 4 days.
You're about to get that.
I'm about to get it.
Yeah.
No way.
I've already applied.
It's
already in
technically
progress.
3 truths.
It's technically
but not
3
yet.
truths, but
Yeah.
not
So,
quite.
Okay, see, now I feel gypped out of it.
Yeah, so I knew the answer to that because when we were in class, he was saying he was in the process of getting
The
like
process
an
of doing it.
adjudicator
Yep.
or someone over to
So
come look at it.
large-
The
Largest
notary
board
has
game?
to come over and verify it, and then I can submit it.
Wow. So largest board game collection.
Yeah.
So you name it, you probably have it.
Probably. I have 3,800 now board
Holy
games.
where do you keep all that
I got a
shit?
warehouse with my boats and board games. Boats and board games together, right?
I'm going to
The
tell you,
B&B.
you're probably going to need insurance on all those games.
So,
That's for sure.
yeah,
That's
that's
crazy.
I'm about to get that. So now they're all going to be true. So now I'm going to come up with a new lie.
Yeah. Man,
So-
damn, you had me fooled. But hey, 300
times.
bowling at 300, that's crazy.
It was fun. That was an amazing night.
That's insane.
It's cool.
You ever going to compete professionally?
I did. So
Oh, okay.
I took 11th in the state of Utah.
Damn.
So, and then anyone can actually bowl professionally. You can go anytime you want. During the year. So there's about 180,000 bowlers who go and bowl wherever it's at. So first when I went with Syracuse, New York.
Do you get puppet bowlers, like people that think they're good? And
Oh yeah,
okay,
anyone can show up, right? The best thing, I'll tell you what. The best thing I liked about it is when I was in the waiting room. I'll tell you what, I was the best looking athlete there. That's just all I can say.
Damn, that's crazy.
I know, and I'm not a good looking guy, so you can imagine what was in the room. So I kind of athlete. I don't know if you really call bowlers athletes, but
Hey,
they
hey.
qualify.
I call golf a sport, so,
So-
bowling's a sport too.
Syracuse, New York's my first competitive, and I didn't think I did anything. And then when it's all over, I got a check in the mail. I had a check for $56 for taking 2056th place. So I still have it framed.
Hell yeah.
Because I took, 2,000 out of $180,000. I went again just last year it was in Reno, and I actually took 222nd place nationally out of 180,000, and I got a $2,000 check.
I was gonna say that.
I did cash that one.
What does something like first place take in one of those?
They'll take home close to $1 million.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were only 200.
And then if you're on the tour, right, you can make that's the tour players
like Belmonte.
Yeah, those guys are doing all right. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, you'd think so. Doing all right.
Yeah, doing well. Just
send him a picture of your 300 and be like, hey, look, I need to be in the top 30s always.
Well, it's harder. They changed the lanes. It's much more difficult when you get to. It's tough to become. I mean, they know what they're doing.
Well, it's hard to be. I feel like. Well, maybe this is more like public bowling alleys. I'm sure a lot of the professional ones are kept the same, but it's hard to be consistent because I know a lot of bowling alleys there's a different amount of
different oil.
Is it
oil pattern? Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I like to spin it, so I'll go to Jack and Jill's in Lehigh, and then I'll spin it, and it'll just beeline straight to the gutter because there's nothing on it. And then I'll go somewhere where I spin it, and it'll just sit there.
Or at UVU, it's all juice.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, you could see the ball spinning sideways, and it just goes straight the whole way down.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't even think I get a 300 with the fucking bumpers.
I think my highest score I've ever got in bowling is 212.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's good.
And this was 2 years ago.
But
we're talking.
Wii bowling, hey, don't get me wrong.
Actually, I have a perfect 300.
I hear 300 Wii bowling's tough though.
It is.
I hear it's way tough.
I have a perfect 300 on Wii bowling.
That's unreal.
I will plug in my Wii and send you a picture of it. But no, it's
dig up the archives.
Yeah, it was perfect condition. I don't know. I think it was it was an All-Star in Draper.
Oh, there you go.
All-Star in Draper. But I do have a perfect 300 in Wii bowling. There's a technique, and it's a backward spin.
All right, let's do our next podcast at the alley. We'll just bowl.
Dude,
all my stuff's right over
honestly,
there.
that'd be
we could do that.
We 100%
we could
do it.
100% do that. Get that set up.
Bowling and entrepreneurship or something like that.
I'll tell you what.
Bowling and commercialization.
I will have bumpers on, so no shame.
Yeah. But just to wrap it up here, one thing we like to do before we sign off is if you could give one piece of advice or a tip on giving people to make their life happier and better and just overall something that they could take away from this coming from you.
The hot topic. So I actually went and visited Adobe. Did a whole tour at Adobe yesterday.
Oh, awesome.
And I did a lot of questions, and they said something really interesting that I actually went home. I didn't sleep almost last night studying this, so this is just fresh on my mind. My advice is be curious. Be curious, because actually being curious leads to discovery, which leads to happiness. Right? As you learn new things, you get excited, you build new skill sets, you master new things, and it's almost this virtuous cycle. So the one thing I can say that might be a little bit different from everyone else is be a curious individual, be willing to take risks, be willing to fail, be willing to ask questions, stupid questions. Simon Sink says his best, be the idiot in the room. Don't be afraid to be the idiot in the room.
Yep.
And so I'm saying be curious. That's what I'm going with right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of that's really great. There's a lot of I know entrepreneurs that say the last person they'll hire is the one that never asks questions.
Absolutely, yeah, without question.
You automatically make yourself the least likely to hire if you don't ask a single question the entire process. So,
yep. Put your ego aside. I love it.
Yeah, no, I like that though. We appreciate you for having on. We'll definitely have to have come back and have another.
All right, when I get this calculator built, let's come back and do it again.
Oh,
let's do
absolutely.
it.
And then we got one more question. Who's your hero?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Who's your hero?
This is an interesting question because growing up, my hero was Jerry Rice.
Okay.
So they actually call me White Rice because I can catch anything. I'm not kidding. What? That was my nickname. Well, that and hemorrhoid, but that's another story.
Oh my gosh.
Holy shit.
So
man, that's something I would expect for an Asian, not a white dude, but that's cool.
That was the last thing I was expecting.
White Rice.
So all right, so I was a receiver, right? So but somewhere down the road, I stopped growing, and I was not going to be a professional athlete, right? In terms of football, so that's why I went to bowling, right? But my modern day hero is Sean Anker, and Sean Anker is actually the leading researcher and studier on.
You still can't get over it. Right. You need a second?
Yeah, let me click.
Should I just go White Rice instead of Priz is my nickname?
Yeah, man.
It's better than brown rice.
Sounds like a rapper, kind of. It's like Vanilla Ice's Prodigy. Okay, I'm good.
All right.
I'm good.
So Sean Anker, right? He is the leading psychologist on happiness. The Happiness Advantage is a great book he wrote. He's got an incredible TED Talk. He's all about positive psychology.
I'm sorry.
Bro, still?
Now you're see me as white rice.
That's crazy.
Oh man. Okay, I'm just gonna sit away from the mic. You just keep talking.
There's a red button. You can just throw that on.
Yeah,
you
go
know?
ahead. I'll collect myself.
So you mentioned this, right? How
Yeah.
important EQ is over IQ.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's what modern day research is showing, hands down, hand over foot, that EQ. So here's what's great: IQ maxes at age 11. And before the 1940s, you actually took an IQ test when you went to work, and they told you exactly how much you were going to make and where you were going to go in that company. Wow. That was it, based on your IQ.
They gave you a lid right
But
there.
your IQ is genetic. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, I don't believe in a supreme being that would create creatures that would be genetically limited.
Right.
So EQ, Sean's one of the leading researchers on showing that EQ is a far more indicator of your success, far more likelihood of your opportunities and your social networks and all of those. But what's most awesome is that EQ can continue to develop until you're 99 years old, till forever.
So it's constantly
You
growing.
can continually to improve your EQ and continue to improve your capabilities and your skills.
Wow.
throughout life. And so he's my new, if I would superhero, or hero, if you will, of just someone who's dedicated his life to the right type of research that's going to make a difference in humanity.
That's awesome. No, he'd be a cool guy. If we ever get the chance, I'd love to have him on and see what we can do because that's a topic that needs to be talked about is EQ.
More and more all the time.
So.
Yeah. Well, no, that was awesome. We appreciate you for having you on, and we'll definitely have to reconvene at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and we appreciate you for being on, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
All right, sweet. Thanks, guys.
Never switch on the homies in the day ones. They didn't wanna open doors, so we made some. Take a bow on these haters like I'm Trey Young. That direct deposit hitting like a bass drum. Incoming, coming.